Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I'm the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I'd like to welcome everybody to the webinar today. So today's webinar is part 3 in a 5-part series of webinars that we do teaching people about BNI Connect. What we do is we kind of step through the different parts of the system in little small bite-sized increments each day for about 5 days and really touch all the different aspects of BNI Connect. So last week, we had our first 2 parts of the series. We talked about how to fill out your profile, and then we went into the online slips, really recording all your activity in BNI Connect. Today, we are going to talk about the social side of BNI Connect, really, connecting with other members. How do we find other people in BNI Connect? How do we use this really to kind of expand our network on a global scale? In addition, tomorrow we're going to talk about the tools and reports. We're going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into BNI Connect and look at some of that kind of, I want to say geekier technologies, but we're going to look at some of that. And then we are going to finish this whole series off with reviewing the visitor process and how BNI Connect can step in and help you get more visitors to your chapter and more of them that show up when they actually say they're going to show up to the meeting. So, that said, just a couple of very quick housekeeping things before we get started with today's content. Firstly, this is a live webinar. So if you're here, I think today is the 18th of April, 2017, you have the awesome opportunity to ask live questions. So again, if there's anything you'd like to know more about as we're going through the material, just feel free to type your question in. I'll see it pop up on the screen and I'll be able to answer it as we are going along. Now, if you are listening to this broadcast in the future, that means that you have found our recordings. We do record all of these webinars and we make them available in a couple of different places. We make them available on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. Again, our YouTube channel is BNI Connect Global. You'll also find them on the support site and in the Member Resource Center if you click the question mark in BNI Connect or go to support.bniconnect.com. All right, so enough of that stuff. Let's talk about, again, the social side of BNI Connect here. So let me close out of that and let's go into BNI Connect itself and let's poke around and take a look at some stuff in here. So the thing about the social side of BNI Connect is that you have to be very careful about is that, I'm not going to go into too much detail today, but you really, really, really got to make sure that you have your profile filled out. And that's because when we start talking about connecting with other people and reaching out to other people in the system, the first thing that they're going to see about you is your profile. And we talk a lot about what's called VCP, visibility, credibility, and profitability. And your online profile here is your credibility. So again, not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but I just want a quick review. If you haven't filled out your profile yet, right on the home screen after you log in, click on Update Profile. You can also go to Options My Account. Either way, if you're on any other screen, go to Options My Account. If you're here on the home screen, click on Update Profile. They'll both take you to the same place. All right, and this is the back-end portion of your profile. There is no big secret to this, okay? All you got to do is there's a bunch of these tabs along the top. Go through each of those tabs, and where you see an empty space, put some stuff in there, okay? That's it. Again, if you want some, really, details about the strategies behind that, go check out the recording from last week's webinar and filling out your profile. Otherwise, just go through here and fill everything out. Most importantly, you got to make sure that you, on the second tab, make sure you have a picture up there as well as a company logo. Okay, so that's the most important thing you can do. The second most important thing you can do is on the first tab here, make sure you have your My Business and your keywords filled out. Now, the keywords are extremely important because that's how people find you when they don't know your name. So in a second, I'm going to show you how we can search BNI Connect and we can search the entire 210,000 membership directory of BNI. However, one thing to keep in mind is that we're not Google. We don't have Google's budget. We don't have Google's algorithms. This is a database search, so it's going to search against specific words in your profile. Now there's weighting mechanisms and things like that, but essentially, just to give you an example, in my profile, I am listed under computer and computer services. So that means if somebody does a search for my services, again, they don't know my name yet, they're doing a search for, let's say they're doing a search for computers, the plural of computer, it actually won't find me because that is a different word than computer is. So I got to make sure that somewhere in my keywords, I have the word computers. That way, when they do a search for that, it can find me. Okay. Also, you may want to put other towns and cities and even states that you might want to be found in as they do that search. Now, nearly everything in BNI Connect updates instantaneously except the keywords. That does take about 30 minutes to get refreshed in the keywords database. So there will be a slight pause on that, but if you update your picture or your bio or anything else, that will be reflected immediately. So Anna or Anna, I apologize if I pronounced that incorrectly one of those two times. She says, why is there HTML code in your My Business section? That's something I covered in the other webinar, but one thing that you can do is you can embed a video in your profile so that if I went to my profile right now, I'm going to click this profile button at the bottom. What you'll see here is a video that is embedded. Now, all you do is you take that snippet of code from YouTube. They'll give you what's called an embed code. Even Facebook has an embed code that you can take and put that into your My Business and be able to display a video as part of your profile. So if you'd like to do that, do me a favor. At the end of the webinar, I want to make sure that we get through all the material, but I'm happy to stay on the webinar pretty much forever as long as you guys have questions. So at the end, just remind me if you're interested, I'll show you how to get a Facebook and or a YouTube video into your profile. Fair enough, Anna? Awesome. All right, so the other thing is, you'll notice that on my profile, my phone number is listed, my address is listed, all my social media links are listed. Now, the other important change that you need to make, I'm going to go back into my profile. The other really important thing that you really need to do is go to this Gears tab. Now, as we're talking about searching the BNI database, we have to decide what we're sharing with other members. All right, do you want to share the bio tab? Do you want to share your connections, your testimonials, your picture gallery? It's up to you what you're going to share when people find you in BNI Connect. So there's 3 different levels of sharing, okay, for all of these things. You can share this information just with everybody. So as soon as they find you in BNI Connect, they can access that information. Now, I personally set this to all, okay, because I want people to see this information about me as soon as they find my profile. I don't want to have to wait for them to send a connection request and for me to respond to it before they can, for example, get my contact details. I want somebody looking for a computer guy to be able to find me, get my phone number, call me right away, strike while the iron's hot. If I instead, which is the default, have this set to my connections, that means that they have to send me a connection request, then I accept that connection, then my contact information will show up for them. Do yourselves a favor and set that to all. That is my humble opinion. All right, so enough about that. Again, you can review the video from the other day, or if you have any questions at the end, be sure to type that question in and we'll cover that in more detail. So I'm going to go back to the home screen here because really the networking components, the way to get to those networking components is to click on My Network right here. Okay, so you have My BNI Business, and below that you should have a link that says My Network. That kind of switches to the other tab of our home page here. And this really has most of the networking components. So we have the My Network section. We have connections. Now the connections, this is kind of your little personal BNI address book. Now you do have access to, again, search for anybody in BNI. Now that includes members, that includes directors, that includes Graham Weimiller at headquarters, the CEO, that includes Dr. Meisner. Everybody in BNI has a profile here in BNI Connect, and you can search those. Now some of those you may actually have, you've met them at a conference, or you want to do business with them, so you reach out and you connect with them. Now, this isn't like LinkedIn where we're just trying to collect as many connections as we can. This is more strategic in who it is that you send connection requests to. So the way that we do that is with this connections, and I'll show you that in a second. The next thing we have is groups, and this is where we can kind of take the networking to a conversational level on a global scale. So right now I think there's about 400 or 500 groups in BNI Connect. Now these are discussion groups. People are talking about stuff in BNI. And now this could be, they're talking about doing business with each other. I know that there's a couple of forums in there for real estate agents that are looking to have somebody to refer to on a global scale internationally, or even just across state lines. So they have a group set up that they can talk about real estate. There's groups about, positions in BNI. So there's a growth coordinator group that shows how to be a better growth coordinator and ideas for growing your chapter. So lots of different things in the groups, and you can even create your own groups. The next thing here is the documents section. Now the documents section is stuff that your regional office is sharing with members from your region. So for me, those 98 documents are things that my executive director is sharing with other members here in Rhode Island. So those documents are going to be different for you than they are from somebody else on this call or my profile. So to take a look at those, and if there's something that you think should be in there, please talk to your executive director. The next thing is testimonials. So when you're connected with somebody, and only after you've connected with somebody, you can leave them a testimonial on their profile. So you can send them some kudos, some good things that they've done, compliment them, and help build their credibility. The next thing is events. This will be regional events. They're going to be things like member success program and trainings and advanced one-to-ones and other trainings that are offered on a regional level. Sometimes they can be networking events or chapter visitor days, all the stuff that's going on in your region. That's where they will be listed. That will be the same thing that is also listed on the regional website on the events calendar. So this is more of a list view, and on the regional website is a calendar view. All right, the next thing is the messaging center. You can send internal messages. Those messages, again, they are internal to BNI Connect, so they get sent to another member. They do have to log in order to read that, unless they are forwarding it off to another email address. All right, so that's first things first. Let's look at these connections. So if I go to the connections here and I go to manage, that will take me over to the connections interface here in BNI Connect. And what this is, for all intents and purposes, it's an address book. It's kind of like my little black book of BNI here. So I can scroll through all of my connections here. I can click on somebody, Mark Silverman, for example. He's a director down in the New York City area that I'm friends with. And I can have easy access to his contact information here. I can also do certain things like send him a message, so I can send him an internal message. I can ask him for a testimonial. I could give him a testimonial. I could also go and view his full profile, or I can remove him from my connections. Now, by default, you are going to start off with being, at the very least, connected to all of the people in your chapter. And those ones will happen, as I said, automatically. So as new members come into your chapter, they will be automatically added to your connections. So Charles Westcott, for example, he is the social media consultant in my chapter. That's him. And you can see that I have less options with him. I can send him a message. I can view his profile. I have already given him a testimonial, and he has already given me a testimonial, so we can only give one testimonial per person. And because he's a member of my chapter, I can't remove him from my connections. That will happen automatically if one of us leaves the chapter, which I don't plan on doing anytime soon. So that's where the connections are stored. So how do we get people into our connections? So we do that by, if we're in here, we can click on Add Connection. Now, if you're anywhere else in BNI Connect, you can always click this magnifying glass in the upper right-hand corner. Okay, so click that magnifying glass, and that will take you in to the global directory search. So this is essentially the yellow pages of BNI Connect. Every BNI member around the world has a profile here in the BNI Global Directory. Now this is a very simple search. So all you have to do is type in a search term or a name and you'll find that. So for example, I'm just going to put my name in, Jeremy Walsh. All right, and I believe there will be 2 results to this. There's Jeremy Walsh, that's me, in BNI Wakefield, and Jeremy Walsh III. So if I click on Jeremy Walsh, this brings up my profile. And again, this is the same profile that I showed you just a little while ago. Now this other profile, again, this is just a test account that I have, mostly for doing these things like webinars. And this has, by the way, this one I use all the time because this is what you look like to the world if you haven't filled out your profile. Nobody is going to be able to use your services. Nobody's going to be able to want to use your services if your profile looks like this. All right, but you don't have to search by name. So I'll give you a quick example of how you can possibly use this. So if anybody knows how big Rhode Island is, you will know that it is the smallest state in the entire United States. It is 20 miles wide by 40 miles long, which means you can pretty much get across Rhode Island in about 45 minutes, driving the speed limit. The weird part about Rhode Islanders, though, is they don't like to travel anywhere. So this actually just happened about 2 months ago. The electrician in my chapter got a referral to a potential client. However, that client was all the way in Massachusetts. Now, granted, that's only about a half hour away. I think it was like 22 miles or something like that. But that said, he didn't want to take that client on. It would take him too much out of his way to go and do that. So what he did was he looked for an electrician in Attleboro, right? That is the name of the town where this client was. So he looked for an electrician in Attleboro, and he came back with a couple of different results. So he clicked on the results. Now this one, unfortunately, was not sharing the any contact information. Dave, however, is sharing contact information. And then we also have Glenn, who again is at least sharing his Facebook account and website, if not his phone number. So I know for a fact that he did call Glenn and he passed this referral over to him in order to kind of keep the business in the BNI family, which is a great thing about doing business in BNI, is that we know that people tend to have a higher accountability level because we have all these awesome things like the membership committee and making sure that we're vetting members before they're brought into a chapter. So that's just one way that you can do this. Now, there's another type of search that you can do, and it's the advanced search. And here, if you find that it's returning too many results, or in this case, it was returning results from the United Kingdom. Now, I don't necessarily need anything from the United Kingdom if I'm trying to refer somebody locally. So I could make sure that I did, Attleboro and do the state of Massachusetts, or maybe I wanted to do just keep that in the United States, and I wanted to make sure I do electrician in the United States, and that would at least narrow this down a bit to just come through and give me results for the United States. I didn't put Massachusetts in here, which I probably should. So I put Massachusetts. I can now whittle this down even further and find somebody. Now, let's say that you're looking for them and now you want to get connected with them. You actually want to make them a permanent connection in your BNI address book. You do that by clicking this little plus button next to it, or if you click on their name, you can choose Add to My Connections. And if I click this, this will send them an alert saying, hey, guess what? Jeremy wants to be connected with you. Would you like to get connected? Once they accept your connection, that will add them to the address book. All right, so let's go take a look at that address book again, because as I said, the connections are an opt-in experience. So if I go to connections and I go to manage again, or by the way, if I was still on the other screen, I could always go to network connections. So there's this drop-down menu up here at the top as well. All right, so from here, you'll see that we have our connections. We also have our received requests. And if I click on received requests, this will be all of the people that have sent me a connection request. By the way, feel free to send me a connection request. I'd love to get connected with you. Now I have six requests in here. I can go through, I can read each one individually. I could look at Francine, for example. Francine sent me a message, I'd like to add you to my connections. I can then accept, ignore, or reject. Now here's the thing. Accept means it's going to go right into my connections, right? Reject means it's going to reject it. It actually lets the person know that you've rejected it, and it will allow them to send another one at some point. However, if you ignore this, it is going to hide this, and they will never be able to send you another connection request. So just a warning that it does permanently hide that person from connecting with you. I'm going to go ahead and accept this one. So in that message, Linda had a question, I'm sorry. Linda says, if the connection request only shows you the first name, how do they know who made the request? So you can see here, it's actually showing Nathan's full profile. If I go into the message is just signing it with the first name, but if I go back to the received requests here, and it looks like Christy just sent me, Christy is on the call today. Christy, thanks for the connection request. I will make sure I accept that in just a second. But here, Linda, if you notice, it is showing his full profile. I can also click on his picture or his name. That'll open up a new window here, right? And it will take me to his profile so that I can go and look through the information, make sure it's somebody that I actually know and would like to get connected with before I go ahead and accept that connection request. So does that answer your question, Linda? All right, so again, you can read the messages here. I can go back to receive requests. If I have a bunch of them here, the other thing that I can do is I can connect with everybody at once. So I can select all, choose connect to selected, and that will get me connected to everybody in the list all at once. Of course, if you do that, you won't be able to individually read their messages. So just a little warning there. Some people put quite a bit of information into those, in initial messages there. All right, now testimonials. While we're here, let's just talk about testimonials real quick. As I said, testimonials you can only give to people that you're connected with. So when you're connected with somebody, you can click on their profile here. And it's really just as simple as giving a testimonial. There's nothing fancy about it. You just type out your testimonial and click submit. That's it. It will then appear on their profile. Now, if you want to review those testimonials, click on testimonials, and that'll bring you over to the testimonials tab. The other thing you can do is back on the home page, you can click on Manage Testimonials, and you could also go to Network Testimonials. All right, and here you can see all the testimonials that you've received. So you can read about the testimonials. You can also review any testimonials that you've given to people. And if people have requested a testimonial from you, you can review them here and choose to give, ignore, or reject that testimonial request. All right, we are almost at the bottom of the hour, so I do want to make sure I show you this one last part of this, and this is the groups functionality. And the groups functionality, as I said, this is the way where we can start to really expand our network on a different level, because this is where the relationships actually start to happen. This is where we can have discussions with people around the world. And as I said, there are a ton of groups. If looking at this, so right now there are 527 groups. Now when you do this, you may see a slightly different number. I'm an admin, so I can see even the hidden groups, because you can actually create a hidden group that only certain people have access to. That said, there is a big difference with our groups, our BNI groups, as opposed to other places like LinkedIn and Facebook and I don't know, Yahoo and all these other places that have discussion groups. The number one difference is that you must keep the group active. So if you go 60 days without making a post in the group or without some type of reply or response or activity in the group, we send a warning and say, hey, by the way, there hasn't been any activity in here. If it goes another 30 days, we will delete this group. And if there's no activity, it's gone. We had at one point, I think, 2,000 groups in BNI Connect, of which 1,500 of them were dead. And over the course of time, we were able to. Now we're confident that these 500 or so groups that are in the system are active. They are people having conversations in BNI Connect, and you can see that there is a ton of information in these groups. Now, some of these groups are small. This one has 2 topics and 5 participants. Some of them are in other languages. We are a global organization, and if people want to have conversations in French or German or Hebrew or Chinese or whatever, they can do that. This one, I believe, is in French, if I'm not mistaken. So a wedding contact sphere here that has 500 recipients. That 500 people are participating in this wedding contact sphere to pass business back and forth. There's 533 posts in there. That is a very active group. Now you can go through and you can just click through these page by page at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or so per page. That's going to take you a while, right? So you can do that, or you can always click on this magnifying glass. And for example, Dr. Meisner has a couple of groups in here. I recommend doing a search for Dr. Meisner, and you'll see his group. So there's the From the Founder group that he's been running since 2011. There's 4,200 participants in that group. That's a lot of people. That means that every time that, if he even has a section in there called Introduce Yourself. If you go in and write a quick blurb, hey, I'd like to introduce myself to the group, blah, 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 that will go out as an email notification to 4,000 people. You just introduce yourself to 4,000 people around the world. Crazy, isn't it? If you want to participate in these discussions, you can. If you're not part of the group, click on Join Group. That will allow you to participate and get the notifications about the group. And then we can go into the group. We can see all the different topics. Dr. Meisner has one going on right now. What drives you crazy in a group? So people are posting all their pet peeves about what drives you crazy about BNI, the combined potential, the long testimonials. So all these things that drive people crazy. So these are a great way to participate in a global conversation. Now, the hidden benefit of this is that you can also see the participants, which means that of all of these people, or when they're involved in the conversation. All right, let's see. Just go back into this one here. I could, for example, click on Dr. Meisner's profile by clicking on his name. And you can even send Dr. Meisner a connection request, but it has all his contact information and social media links and all sorts of stuff in there. So great way to just get connected with people after you've already heard something about what they have to say. All right, so that, I think we are at the bottom of the hour. So what I'd like to do is to open this up to questions. For those of you that do need to leave right away, as I promised, we'd like to get through the content in 30 minutes to make sure that you really are getting the best benefit out of this. And I know that everybody's got a ton of emails and phone calls and everything else to get back to. So I thank you so much for being a part of this webinar. For those of you that can stick around for a couple more minutes, I would love to answer your questions. So please start typing your questions in and I will go through those questions. Just a reminder, as I mentioned, we are recording this webinar. It will be made available on our support site and on the YouTube channel. So let me show you how to get there. So there's, again, there's two different places that you can find our webinars, one of which is on the support site. All right, so to get to the support site, click this question mark up here in the upper right-hand corner. Click the question mark. That will take you to the support site, and you'll see a whole bunch of stuff up here. You'll see the BNI Resource Center, which has great documents. You have some chapter training, that all these walkthroughs and everything like that. You also have the live and recorded webinars. So here's our upcoming webinar schedule, for example. Right, you can grab our upcoming webinars, and then also all of our recordings. And very shortly, I will have the April set of recordings here as well. But in the meantime, you can even check out this same webinar from last month on March 15th. Very similar content, though we do have different, questions and other comments as we're going through the material. So, all right. So I think that also answers your question, Don, about where to find those videos. Again, YouTube also. So if you go to youtube.com/BNI Connect Global, this is our YouTube channel, and you can see all of our videos chronologically and grouped up here as well. All right, so let's see what we have here. Janet, I think I showed how to search for a group. Do you need me to show that again? I think I showed it right as you were typing your question. All right, let's see. Renee says, it seems like engaging in BNI Connect could take up a lot of time. How much time do you allocate each week in engaging in BNI? Well, that's kind of an unfair question to me because this is what I do all day, every day, is I basically live in BNI Connect because, we run the support department here. But most people that I know, it's kind of like it's an as the need arises. So, as the primary way that I use it is as I need a resource, rather than turn to Google and rather than turn to Craigslist or Angie's List or things like that, I try to turn to BNI first. So I'm not doing personally as much proactive research and hunting people down, but using referral opportunities as a way to reach out and connect with people that may be in other places. Does that make sense, Renee? All right, let's see. Jennifer says, can you help me embed a YouTube video? I've tried without any success from the previous webinar. Sure thing, absolutely. So let's take a look at that real quick. So the first thing you have to do is go get the video, right? So you got to go find that video. Now, you can do that from YouTube, right? So I can go to my YouTube channel, for example. And let's say we just, we have this invite a visitor. I'm going to take this one, right? Now, if you go to the share button, right, the share button here, it's going to give you a link. You don't want this link. That's just a link to the video. What you actually want, you have to click over to embed. This is the code that you want. All you have to do is right-click this and choose copy. Now I'm going to go and click on update profile. Now the trick to this, okay, there's a little bit of a trick here, and that is that you do have to have at least one bit of text in here. Okay, so you do have to have at least one bit of text. So if it's just the code, then what's going to happen is it's going to think that you are, just trying to, put something malicious in there. So you really have to have at least some text. So you can see here that I have, why BNI Connect, right? And then you just take that YouTube code and you paste it in there. So I have that YouTube code and I just paste it in there and click update. Right? So as soon as I do that, again, I'm going to go to my profile here and you'll see that the video on my profile has changed, or it would help if I actually saved that. Let me go ahead and click update this time, which I did not do the last time. And now it says saved. So I should be able to go back to my profile. And there it is. It's got the new video in there. So the one other thing that I'll tell you is that depending on the video that you are using, I recommend a width of about 465 pixels. So that's about the width that this will take before it starts to get cut off. So I do recommend about 465 as the maximum width on that. All right, hopefully that helps. And Facebook has the same type of embed code that you can copy and paste from your videos. Don, I'll tell you what, let's take a look at that one afterwards. I can explain what that is with not being able to get to the support site. It just means that you may have been a member before and there is basically an email conflict that's happening with the support site, which is actually a third-party system. So definitely, if you want to, shoot me an email and we can take care of that right after this call. Okay? Let me see if I can copy and paste your phone number here and we'll take care of that. All right, so Renee says very helpful, thank you. Let's see. Christy says very helpful, thank you. Randy says, how do I put in a one-to-one with another member? So you want to check out, make sure that you check out my the very last one that we did on the online slips. But here's the quick thing. It is My BNI Business, right? And right on the home screen here, submit one-to-one slips. And what you want to do is choose the member that you had a one-to-one with, the location, the topics of conversation, and the date of your one-to-one, and click submit. And that will submit that one-to-one slip that will appear in next week's POMS report. Randy, is that what you were looking for? Awesome. And make sure everybody on the call, make sure that you do put in a CEU slip for today. Just give yourself anything that has 1 credit in it, and that will suffice for today's webinar. All right, so Anna says, Anna, thank you, Anna. Is there a protocol or etiquette when asking for BNI connections? Is it okay to connect with people you don't know? What are best practices? What should I be aiming to get out of these connections? So how do you make the most out of these BNI connections? So keep in mind that this is networking, okay? So what you definitely want to avoid is selling, right? There's a strong, big difference between networking and selling, right? Think of this like a big open networking event. You know, you don't really just go up to people and start pitching them your services. Yeah, you need to buy this. You need to be on my sales team. You need to do this. You need to do that. You need to do this. When I connect with somebody, or when you connect with somebody, my recommendation is to, give them the reason why you want to connect with them, and give them the reason in benefit to them. Right? So, maybe you're connecting with them because you might have potential business to refer in their market. The last thing you want to do is, hey, I want to do business in your market, so I need you to start referring me business there, right? Nobody wants to to do business that way, right? We get enough of that on places like LinkedIn. Every other message I get on LinkedIn is, hey, yeah, no, I do search engine optimization. You need to use my services. I just checked out your website. It doesn't look very good. Nobody wants to be sold to. So that would be my primary recommendation, is that you look for those connections that, this is giver's gain. How can you be a giver in that connection, and what is the benefit to them of being connected with you? Anna, does that help? Does that make sense? Awesome. Awesome, awesome. So that was the last question I had on the list here. Does anybody have any other questions whatsoever? And I'm happy to answer those questions. Again, whether it's about this stuff or if it's anything else in BNI Connect, happy to answer your questions. All right, if there's no additional questions, just a very quick reminder. We do have another webinar tomorrow. We're going to be talking about, again, the tools and reports. I'm going to show you how to get some statistics out of BNI Connect, and some of the other functions that are available to us as members. And then on Thursday, we are going to talk about the visitor process and how you can invite visitors from BNI Connect, and how you can also make sure that they actually show up to the meeting. So we're going to talk about that on Thursday. And that's going to close out our series for April, and we're going to do the whole thing again in May. So a good referral for me is to please share these webinars, either the recordings or the registration. If you could share that with a fellow member that you think could benefit from this type of information, that would be a good referral for me. Lori says, can you show again how to input the credit? Yep, absolutely. On this homepage, on the My BNI Business, click on Submit CEU Slip. Give yourself 1 credit. Again, in the United States, the second line will say BNI Webinar. If you are in another place, it doesn't really matter which one you choose, just as long as you're giving yourself 1 course credit. And that's it. You just click Submit, and you're done. You'll have given yourself a CEU credit. All right, so I think that's it. Again, thank you guys so much for your time. I wish you the best of luck in everything that you do. I hope I see some of you on tomorrow and Thursday's webinar. And in the meantime, happy connecting.